Icons of Real Estate, Oregon. Are you ready to learn from the real-life experiences and the proven money-making secrets of Oregon's top producers? If you're an ambitious real estate agent in Oregon ready to skyrocket your business, then this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Maureen Healy, licensed Oregon Realtor. Tune in weekly where every guest will have a story to tell and tips to share to help you increase your own business. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO, and your all-inclusive real estate platform, Icons of Real Estate. Hello, and welcome to the Oregon Icons of Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Maureen Healy, and I am based in Portland, Oregon. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Shane Mast, who is a broker and also owner of Oregon Life Homes out in Roseburg, Oregon. Welcome, Shane. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We haven't really been acquainted before this, so I wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and your background in real estate. And then also, my first question is, do you have, what did you do in your prior life before you became a realtor?
It's hard to imagine that there was another life. So I was a teacher first. So I got a bachelor's in history at University of Oregon, and then my master's in education there.
Nice.
Taught for a few years. That didn't work out. I just wasn't my passion. I liked the teaching part, but I worked for the University of Oregon for 4 years in the educational research department, and I liked that. I was on a grant. The grant was running out. It was a 2-year grant, got renewed once, but didn't get renewed a second time. So that's when I had to figure out what I wanted. Did I want to go back to teaching? What did I want to do? And I'd been kind of flipping real estate with family and friends just on the side for a long time before that. And so I decided, those realtors, that seems like pretty easy job. They get paid. They don't do anything. And so I got my license. Actually, it only took me 7 days from the time I started.
Really?
Was licensed and just waiting on my fingerprinting. That was back when you could click through the class and they didn't time you. So I studied for a long time, but the class itself only took me 7 days. But
I was going to say that might be a record.
Yeah, it could be, but that's kind of how I got through high school and college too, just cramming, getting all that information in there and passing the test. So, I wouldn't recommend that. Well, you can't do it now because they got a little smarter.
They got smart to it. Yep.
But yeah, so that was June of 2012 is when I first got my license, and that's the only job I've had since.
So that's interesting that you came in through flipping. I did the same. Actually, I flipped a couple properties back in 2012, 13, and I was always interested in it from an investment perspective. And I eventually decided, I went into property management, and then I thought, why don't I just get my license? So I think I get how you could come to it from that perspective.
And then you end up, I think, with a different mindset if you started in the investment world and then moved into the sales world. And that's something we emphasize and bring in investors to talk to our agents, not partially on how to represent investors, but more so to teach them to become investors themselves. Sure. We don't have retirement. We don't have any safety net. And even buying somebody's business when they retired, it's not worth what they've built up. So best thing is get your some residual income coming in while at the same time as doing business.
Yes, I'm definitely a fan of residual income and multiple streams of income.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you tell me a little bit about what areas you focus in? I know your office is based in Roseburg, but what areas do you actually cover?
So personally, I live in this little tiny town called Drain, Oregon. There's 1,000 people here. I live outside of town. But I'm smack dab in the middle of Eugene and Roseburg. So it's 35 minutes to Roseburg, 35 minutes to Eugene. So prior to opening the brokerage, I was more of a Eugene agent, probably 80% there and 20% Roseburg area. And now I've flopped that. I'm more of a 80% in the Roseburg area and 20% in the Eugene area. So yeah, but I always used to just go anywhere. It didn't matter if it was 3 hours away, I would go. And but now I try to stay within an hour of my home base.
Sure, 3 hours away is kind of hard.
It is, but in 2012, when we had 18 months of inventory, it took a long time to sell a house, and so I would just kind of go anywhere at first.
Right. It's interesting how our practices change according to what the market's doing and also our experience level too, I feel like.
Absolutely. And again, your client load is,
Absolutely.
if you got 2 clients, you can go a lot further. But if you've got
Definitely.
25, you better stay close to home.
Yes, absolutely. For me, I tend to go farther out for friends or
Oh,
referrals
sure. Mhm.
than, but if it's somebody that I don't know very well, I would rather refer them out just because
Exactly.
it's such a hard balance to, you have to service your clients the best that you can and also protect your time,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
And to
So,
be valuable to your client.
absolutely.
If our time is stretched, we're less valuable.
Hmm. Tell me about your brokerage. This is a company that you started, correct?
Yep. Almost 2 years ago to the day. Well, not to the day. I said that January 1st,
Okay. So pretty cool.
2021. So it's been 2 years and a month since we started Oregon Life Homes with 7 people, all from the Roseburg area at the beginning. And then it kind of has grown just organically into 73 agents and kind of all over the state. We actually have agents in Cottage Grove, Eugene, Portland, Lincoln City, Grants Pass, Coos Bay, Gold Beach, Brookings. So kind of all everything west of I-5 is covered.
That's great. So you have good coverage for most of the state, it sounds like. And
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
grown from 7 to 73 in 2 years.
yeah. It's been kind of wild.
That is great growth. Did you recruit or is that just
It's
organic?
been mostly organic at first. I probably recruited, the first 20 agents that I'd had a lot of respect for and I've done deals with before, and just kind of talked to them about how their business was going and what it might look like if they came over with some new ideas. So at first it was the, 20, and then from there it just, people would just call. Sometimes we're like, hey, here's our logo. Like they'll
Oh,
see it
nice.
on the
I like
sign
that.
and
I like
like,
the
I really
tree.
like your logo. Like, tell me more about Oregon Life Homes. And then it kind of would go from there. So and then probably half of our agents have been recruited by other agents that
Okay.
they basically say, hey, you should check this out. It's just kind of a different way of doing real estate.
So where were you before? And then what is different about the brokerage that you created?
Sure. So I was with Keller Williams Eugene for 7 years, and then 2 years, 2.5 years at Keller Williams Roseburg. Learned tons of stuff there, and great training company. And I'm glad I started the way I started. But then I started a team at Keller Williams, and then just the way I like to do business and create for other people, it wasn't a good fit at being part of a franchise. So
Mhm.
some things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't find it anywhere else, was I wanted people to be able to earn more of their own money, for one.
Okay.
Uh, and I wasn't really into the team thing. So I thought, let's start a brokerage that's like a team, like a family, but we don't take half their money forever. So we put low caps on it, low splits, so that agents can try to cap fairly. Basically, if you've sold about $2.1 million in sales for local agents, they're capped. Like, and they don't pay anything else. So it was that. And then the second part of it was the training. Like, I felt like, I mean, we're getting paid like doctors and lawyers. We should have the education like doctors and lawyers. We should be that competent in our craft. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
we're kind of extreme. We do 5 trainings a week. So
Okay.
lots and lots of, about half of them are CE and half of them aren't. Like tomorrow we're doing and not all of them are about real estate. Tomorrow, for example, we have a negotiation class at 9 a.m., which we have to do kind of every 3 or 4 months, because as the market shifts, our negotiation tactics shifts. And so we're doing that. And then like at 10:15, we have somebody from the rescue mission coming to talk about what they do. So we try to
Oh, very
incorporate
cool.
every Thursday. We try to bring a guest speaker in from the community that does something, whether it's the tax assessor or the water master or
Mm.
the rescue mission director who's coming tomorrow. So just trying to keep it more holistic, not just about, it's not, their classes aren't really about making money. It's just about increasing your knowledge and your mastery in the field, as well as being aware of your community and things that are going on.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic because especially certain things like that that you will come across as an agent, if you know what you're talking about and you can project confidence when you're speaking to
Mhm.
your clients, that makes them feel like they're in good hands.
Right.
So
Yeah.
meeting with and knowing people in the community too. If
Very, yeah.
you're in a transaction and you have to call somebody from the water company or whatever, you're like, oh, I know that person.
Yeah.
It
They
just
came to our office.
it's a great credibility builder and
Hmm.
it also gets you in front of the face of the community and vice versa. I think that's a great idea. I love
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. Yeah. And so we have two core values at Oregon Life Home. So number one is help people, and number two is keep learning. So, and I think if you do those two things and not just help your client, like help your colleagues, help even the agent on the other side of the deal
Sure.
and your neighbor, any type of goodwill, I totally believe gets returned to you. So not only is it the right thing to do, it actually is beneficial for you in the long run. You're just, every time you help someone, you're building a relationship,
Mhm.
whether it makes you money or doesn't make you money. It's just still building your sphere and your community of people. So help people is definitely our number one core value, but then keep learning. I think a lot of agents know what I call is just enough. They know
Uh-huh.
just enough. It's a very low bar to get into our industry,
Correct.
and it's easy to get in. And if you stop learning there, you might know enough to write a deal, but do you know enough to protect your client and provide great service? We always say, negotiation is not about getting a deal, it's getting a good deal for your client, and not,
Absolutely.
and we do that through mastery and learning and education, and we can't stop. We have to keep going because the market doesn't stop. Our market, every market is different than it was 3 months prior. And if you just stop learning, it's nice when other agents do that, when we're negotiating against them, when they're not
Right.
sure where the market's at right now. But even then, we invite other agents from other offices to come to our trainings as well. Like we had one 2 weeks ago where we had about 50 agents from other areas at our office.
I think that's great because when you meet face to face too, it helps because you never know. I mean, it is a
Right.
fairly small world, and at some point, you're probably going to end up as a co-op agent with them
Yeah.
in a transaction. So if
Yeah.
you already have a relationship, and even if it was through an education class, wherever, I think it's helpful.
Mhm. Yeah. And
And
it's so funny. Every time you do that, you run into somebody that you've talked to on the phone for 3 years. And then,
absolutely, and never met
oh,
in
that's
person until
the,
then.
the face behind the voice. But yeah, and to your point, we're in a small, there's 100,000 people in our entire county. It's such a small county. We're dealing with the same agents kind of over and over and over. So it's super important to have good relationships with them. And also, the more knowledgeable they are, the more smooth our transactions go
Sure.
once we're dealing. So I don't really view other agents from other companies or other broker owners as competitors, just colleagues. I'm meeting with one of the broker owners on Friday, and they just want to know what we do. Like, they saw the success, and we're not like buying them out or anything like that. We're just going to share ideas. And I think they're probably the third biggest company in the county. We're the biggest. And but our trajectory has gone up. Every other company, brokerages numbers have gone down in the last 2 years. And this guy once what told me about a year and a half ago, you'll never make it with those splits. You can't possibly run a brokerage that thin. And I said, I think we can. And now,
And here you are.
and I didn't like, I remember what you said. I just like, I appreciate the fact that he sees that it can work, and you don't have to take that much money from your agents, and you can still have a thriving business with thriving agents.
That's awesome. So what would you say is unique about your brokerage?
I would say the most unique thing is those 5 trainings we do a week, is they're all on Zoom. So one of the things I was worried about as we started growing faster than I anticipated was people would get lost and
Mhm.
there's be too many agents, but it's had the kind of the opposite effect. Most of our trainings are about an hour, and generally 30 to 40 minutes of actual training, and then it's just discussion. And so we get so many ideas. Every agent that comes in has new perspectives and new ideas. And
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing, is we'll get 4 or 5 different perspectives on every training. And so it's just super valuable to get it's almost like having 70 mentors.
Mhm.
Even the youngsters are teaching us guys technology, and like
Sure.
TikTok. That's a real, like, people use that for real estate. And then I looked into it. Holy cow, there's so much great information on there
I
for real
know.
estate. And
That's one thing that's on
I
my
thought it was
to-do
for
list.
dancing and lip syncing. I don't
It's
do
the way
anything
of
on them.
it's the way of our world now, I
Mhm.
think. So,
But I think we have that platform where each agent is empowered to share what they know, and knowing that they're going to get stuff back in it. I think that's probably the most unique thing about our brokerage is how much collaboration and rooting for each other, and that kind of thing. When an agent comes in, they're getting referrals from other agents trying to get them their first deal, and just a
sure.
great culture, I guess.
Collaborative spirit. That's
Yeah.
amazing, especially when you are under the same company.
Mhm.
You have a built-in referral network and built-in collaboration and just
Sure.
learning from each other. And like you said, the young can learn from the old learn
Mhm.
from the young, vice versa. And being able to do it on Zoom with all of your brokers all around the
Yeah,
state,
I
you
love
know,
Zoom. It's
it's
great.
it's now in this like post-COVID world where we're all on Zoom all the time, we're used to it. And now I think, how did we, we can do so much more
Yeah.
business and so much more learning this way. It's
Oh yeah,
I think
for
that
sure.
was like one of the greatest benefits of that situation.
Yeah, I agree. And another unique thing we have what's our showing agent program, which is almost like a reverse showing agent program. So if this is why we're getting agents all over the state and wanting to break into more areas. So if somebody sells a house, I list a house in Roseburg and they want to buy a house in Portland, I can hire one of our Portland agents. They become the showing agent. They get $50 for the first door, 25, just like a normal showing agent. But the caveat is they also get 20% of the commission. So if
Oh,
that house sells, that agent is more likely to, I don't know, sharpen their pencil a little bit more when they're showing properties and be more active, knowing that if they buy this one, I get 20% of that
yeah.
commission. So it benefits the showing agent. They get experience. They also get 20% of the commission for, a few hours of work. It benefits the agent that retains a client, because instead of a 25% referral, they're still getting 80% of that commission, and also stays in-house where we can kind of keep an eye on things. So that program, I think I did about 15 or 16 of those last year that were out of area, which I normally would have referred. But because of this program, I'm just using one of our own agents as a showing agent, and they're super happy to get 20% of that commission for a few hours.
That's pretty unique, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't seen it done that way before. That came about of just, I just did it with one agent, and then they thought it was really cool. And so I kind of presented it to the group, and they're like, yeah, let's do that
All
for
about
all
that.
of our showing agents. And the
Sure.
new agents are like, yeah, let me show your properties, please.
As you mentioned that you do a lot of farm and ranch.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about that, and what are things that agents need to know who maybe have never done that type of property before, because that in itself is a learning curve, I think.
Yeah, especially depending on who your buyer is, because a lot of people are moving from the city to the country and they want to grow their own food and things like that. So their buyers don't know anything about farm and ranch. So number one, I would say would be you need to understand zoning. Each zone is different. So whether it's farm, forest, F2 or EFU, like all these different zonings allow for different things. They allow where you have to make a certain amount of money on the property depending on the zoning, and some of them you don't have to make any money on the property to keep
Oh,
your
interesting.
deferred taxes. So I'd say number one is you got to know zoning. Two is water. Well, actually, I might even flip that, because even if you thought you could grow this certain stuff on there and you couldn't, that would be secondary to not having good water. So
Right.
I would say the number one, everything else can be fixed with time and money, whether it's septic, foundation, roof, all the stuff you worry about with in-town single family residences. But if you don't have water, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you can drill sometimes 3-4 wells on the same property with, at $6,000-7,000 a pop for a dry well, and get nothing. So I would say that would be number one. Make sure it has a good, steady water source. And then two, understand the zoning in the area for each individual property. Like, you really want to print those out before, like if you're showing a property that's farm forest, go to the county assessor site, print out that farm forest and study it, bring it with you, share it with your client, because that's probably the biggest rookie mistakes in farm is the client thinks that this property is zoned to do what they want to do, but it's not. And then they buy it and
Oh,
realize the whole reason I bought this was to have dog kennels, and this is
uh-huh.
limited to 4 dogs.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I think that's probably, I wouldn't be scared of farm and forest, because for one, I mean, you get to get out, exercise, you're walking in the woods, walking, on really cool properties. And obviously the price point of those is quite a bit higher than
Sure.
in town. So like, it's kind of like doing luxury, only you have to do a lot more walking.
Yeah, there's a lot to know about that, I think, too. And the septic, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and
Um,
half of the properties I deal with are on well and septic. So,
mhm.
that's like 30 or 40 a year. So I know those pretty well. Those got to be, tested and all that. And the timber too. So timber is a different beast than farm and ranch. There's rules, there's replanting rules, there's creeks that are coming in too close. So you got to know what the setbacks are for those. And you got wildlife studies have to be like, there's a lot. Timber is even
Wildlife
like a
studies.
whole, yeah, you got to make sure there's not like a bald eagle's nest or something here, because there might have to be 100-foot radius around that nest.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, there's a lot to timber is probably the most lucrative other than commercial in our industry, but it's also a really high learning curve. But farm and ranch is if you know the zoning and the water, you'll be all right.
I love to watch the people on YouTube that are, have their homesteads and they
Oh
have
yeah.
all their animals and their chickens. Do you get a lot of people, like you said, people are coming from the
Oh
city?
yeah.
Are you getting a lot of people wanting to create that kind of lifestyle?
Absolutely, with the chickens, the goats, and like what about half of them though sell in 2 years because it looks a lot more glamorous and fun
It's a
on
lot of work.
TV. And then when you get out here and every 5 a.m. you're doing this, and like you can't go on vacation without getting some people to come in. It is a different lifestyle, but some of them just absolutely love it. And others are like, maybe I didn't need 20 acres. I'd like to move closer to town, maybe 2 acres. Can you find me a 2 acre
Mhm.
parcel? I'll just have like 10 chickens and call it good.
Yeah, I feel like small acreage like that from like, 1 to 10 acres is a
Mhm.
really good size because you can
Yeah,
do everything you want to do, but you don't have the upkeep of a
right.
huge
Ex-
plot.
ex- exactly. And if you're going to be completely self-sustaining, I think you only need a couple acres. Like you
Mhm.
can literally grow more crops than you'll eat in 10 years in 1 year. So that too, because a lot of people are like, I want 20 acres. I want this. And then I, explain, ask, what are you going to do? And then a lot of times we can get that done in 3 acres. So
Mhm.
not only is it much cheaper, they don't have all this land to take care of, which is taking care of 20 acres is a full-time job.
Absolutely. Sure is. My parents live out in Texas on I think 150 acres
Mhm.
and they've got horses and they do the whole thing and it is a lot. Just
Yeah.
going to visit, I'm like,
It's a
mm-mm.
complete lifestyle change to have large acreage versus living in town. It's cool. I have 33 acres,
Do you?
but I grew up on 500, so
Oh
it seems
wow.
tiny to me, but it's still like hard to keep nice, and you can't manicure the whole thing.
No, there's no
we take
way.
care of we manicure about 5 acres. It's nice having a teenage son though. He's always
That
trying to
does
make
help.
money. That's the easiest way to make money, is to jump on the riding mower. So he's got that in the summer. Or 5 acres like is a golf course because he gets paid by the hour.
That's awesome.
Okay, maybe you don't need to mow it 2 days in a row.
Well, one thing I saw, I think on your website, it said that one of your geniuses in real estate is helping agents find their niche or their passion.
Yeah,
So, can you tell me a little bit about how do you do that?
yeah. So my belief is our high, depending on who you talk to, 87% of agents are out of the business within 2 years. Some say 5 years, but even if it's 5 years, that is a large dropout rate.
Yeah,
And I think it's
huge.
because my opinion is the reason people drop out is the stress level. And the reason people have stress level is because they haven't found their niche, like their passion of like, this is what I love to do every day. Now, you don't have to be an extrovert people person that talks all the time and to
Mhm.
be a great real estate agent and to enjoy being a real estate agent. So my thing is, if you lined up 100 top agents, even from the same area, they're going to have 100 different businesses. So I'm always telling agents that don't look at this person like that you want to become that person unless they happen to just share your exact passions and everything. Like you can find a way to do it. There's a million different ways. If you go to a training, don't like say, okay, these are the 5 things I've got to do all the time to be a real estate agent. It might work, but if it doesn't line up with your like core values, your passions, you will, I think you will burn out. Like you, so do that maybe to start with, just to get things going. Like our new agents, we really push open houses. As a great, especially young agents that don't have a big sphere of homeowners yet. But that is a way to get clients. If you did 52 open houses this year, which we have, one of our agents' goal is to do 52, she's going to get a lot of buyer clients from those. And whether she likes it or not, that's up to her to decide. If she does, she can keep doing it. If she doesn't, maybe she'll do 20 next year or 10, whatever it might be. But all these different things, door knocking, for me, my business is just built on relationships. But that takes time. Like you can't be like 20 years old, get your license and rely on your sphere to give you business. So first you got to prove yourself, and you do have to do some of the mundane stuff, but don't stay there. Like you'll find different things that make you successful as you go on. And by talking to other people, I think listening to these type of podcasts and going to conferences, you'll just pick up a little bit here and there. And pretty soon, 2 to 3 years into the business, you'll have a great idea of how you are going to do real estate.
Sure. And again, with, in our modern life, we have podcasts and we have YouTube, and there's no shortage of
Everywhere.
education and opinions and, people you can follow and see, you can emulate what they're doing if you find somebody whose style you like.
Mhm.
It's easier now than ever before, I
Yeah,
think, in that
yeah,
way.
yeah. Even like when I started in 2012 to now, it seems like there weren't people doing what we're doing right
Right.
now. And well, if there were, I didn't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really since COVID, when you had to stay inside for so long, I think is when I discovered all these podcasts and like, Ricky Carruth, like his zero to diamond thing. We have an agent that does that.
Mm.
That's just he calls it making friends. You just call, but it's calls. You got to make calls, and then you're trying to add it, like, I don't know what it is, 5 to 10 people to your email list, and then you send a day, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
sending out one email a week. That's a great for somebody that likes to do that. That will work, and he's very successful. He's just well into the six figures agent. And he's only been doing it 2 years.
Wow.
So,
That's
but he
awesome.
loves it. Like he's not going to get burnt out. I would get burnt out trying to get 5 to 10 emails a day by calling. But
Mm.
that's my personality. So he's a good example of something that fits his personality, and he is a little bit more introverted, but he takes it. He can talk on the phone all day, and so just an example. I think another just a good example of there's so many different ways to do this and be successful.
Sure. I wanted to talk for a minute about the market and the way that it has changed since
Mm-hmm.
interest rates have gone up. I mean, the past couple of years were definitely an anomaly
Mm-hmm.
and craziness. And I'm glad to see there's a little bit of balance coming back. But how has that changed your business? Or has it? Are you
It
noticing an
hasn't
effect?
changed my personal business, but working with 73 agents, sales in our county are down about 45 to 50%. So
Wow,
where they were a year ago.
that's significant.
November and December were the lowest selling and pending months since 2014 in
Oh
our
my
in our
goodness.
county. So it hit us pretty hard. And for reference, we closed 24 deals in January, which is with 73 agents.
Mm.
23 deals. Last year we did 70 with only
Okay. So
54
big
agents.
drop off.
So major difference, but that was a product. Closed sales or a lagging indicator, give you a
Mm.
picture of what your market was like the month and two before. So it made sense that November and December were so slow for the whole county, and that our January numbers are down. But we have our pendings, like we now have 70 pending, where we only, as a company, where we only had 20 something in November and December. So there's
Okay.
always a little bump in January, but not like this. This is a very big bump, almost back to normal where we were a year ago. But every week there's some economic news. Rates hit 5.99 last week, and then on Thursday, and then Friday the jobs report comes out being way too good, and then now they're back to 6.5.
I
Just in a
know.
couple business days. And I mean, we had a situation where we locked in a buyer that didn't qualify on Monday of last week, qualified on Thursday because of the rate, locked in at like 5.9, and wouldn't have qualified on the next
Oh,
Tuesday
so
because
crazy.
like she just got it in there. And there's so many people in that same situation. The
Mhm.
last stat I heard was way back in last May that like 22 million people in the United States that could afford the median home in their market in January could no longer afford it in May just due to interest rates. Of
Mm.
course, our market peaked in May too. So that was also when prices were the highest.
Sure.
So and that was when rates just hit like 5.5. So I can't imagine what it was in October when they were at 7.4%.
Right.
I just think the pent up buyer demand is a good thing for us as agents. It's not going to be for buyers once rates hit 5.5, 5 to 5.5 again.
Well,
I
I
think
think,
another 20.
buyers are expecting prices to fall in line with the rates rising, but
Yeah,
sellers are not quite on the same page with
no.
that yet.
And,
And
and I
that's where it gets interesting.
and I don't think it's going to be the rates are going to be high long enough to have sustained price drops. Like
Mhm.
we're down in price for sure, but just when they hit 6, we bumped like in sales, and our inventory is going down because there's now more going pending than are getting listing again. That which is going to put pressure on prices again. I think sweet spot to buy, at least in our area right now. Buy
Yeah.
right now, because I think prices are going to go up again. Now, if the Fed starts changing their course and starts raising rates more aggressively, then yeah, this will last longer. but we'll see what they do. Valentine's Day could be a great day or a bad one. That's when they announce the inflation numbers for January.
Oh boy.
So I
Yeah,
might be
and it's
depressed
hard
there.
when people are, if they're ready, they're ready. But if they're not sure, all
Mhm.
of this news that comes out every day kind of puts them on a roller coaster where they're
Right,
like, well, no, now I'm going to wait.
right.
I'm going to
And
wait till it gets better. And it's like, well, you could be waiting forever. You
right.
can't.
Yeah, they say, the best time to buy a house was a year ago.
Uh-huh.
But
The
it's all
second
about,
best time is today.
yeah, exactly. But it's, if I always train our agents to tell their buyers, like, it doesn't really matter when you buy doesn't make it a good or bad investment. It's when you sell it.
Yep.
So yeah, if you have to sell, like, you might get transferred in a year, then maybe right now is not the best time to buy, because we don't know if we're going to go up 5% this year or down 5% this year. But if
Mhm.
you're going to be there for 5 to 10 years, or you could rent it in a year when you leave, I don't think there is a bad time to buy, as long as you can afford the payment. And I always say, if you can afford the payment and put money in the bank every month, then it's a good time to buy.
Sure. What would be your best piece of advice for agents who have a goal of doubling their business in a year?
Doubling their business in a year, I would say, would be learning, like, every single day, like, learn something, start listening to podcasts and like this, and probably want to find somebody like you in your market area to partner with and hold yourself accountable. I think that's one of the hardest things, especially for new agents, is accountability. In
Definitely.
school, you had someone telling you what to do in your old job, probably if you have a W-2 job, but now you have to tell yourself what to do. So having somebody hold you accountable, even your spouse maybe, is what I would say. But as far as yeah, doubling, it depends on where your business is at. Like, if you sold 5 last year, I'd just say keep doing, it'd be much easier to get to 10. But if you sold 40 and to get to 80, it'd be different advice. We'd have to go
Sure.
over, like, your systems and see, probably gonna have to make a hire to go from 40 to 80,
Uh-huh.
if you're a solo agent. Just a hire, I think, will double your business if you just hire an assistant. If you're already in that 30 range,
Hmm.
that what I went from 50 to 80 when I hired an assistant, like, in 1 year, with no buyer's agents. Or this was before the showing agent program that we have.
That's great. Well, we're going to wrap up here soon, but before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about your philanthropy project. I know that you have Imagine Africa, and I
Mhm.
wanted to have you share about that.
Sure. So Imagine Africa is a nonprofit that my wife and I started a long time ago. First time I went to Malawi, this is the country. I went there because it was the poorest country in the world at the time, and it was just on my heart to go and see what I could do. I was with a group of teachers, so we were training teachers. We trained teachers for 3 days, and then we were there for 3 weeks, and
Mm.
then we didn't do anything the rest of the time. So I actually just left at, I'll see you at the airport, and took off and kind of wandered around Malawi for a few weeks. Met some people, started with a child sponsorship program, because that's all I knew what to do, because I see them on TV. So I had 11 kids and got sponsors for them, and would, send money to, got a manager. But anyway, over 9 different trips back there, we now are kind of basically sponsor 3 entire villages. We feed about 750 kids a day, and
That's amazing.
about 200 elderly people. All the kids there, like, their graduation rate went from like 2% to almost 80%, will graduate high school now, because
That's
we pay for
fantastic.
fees all the way through 12th grade. And then some of them actually we actually got our very first college graduate from that village, which was amazing.
Wow.
So we do that, and we're actually going back this August to check on the projects. And we have 2 different feeding centers in the 3 villages, and the kids go there every day. And 18 employees, they're all local Malawian people, and all have good living wages. And it's been, yeah, it's kind of the main why we do what we do, is my wife and I, is to be able to support that and hopefully grow it as well.
That is really awesome. I mean, there's not many people that create something like that and can sustain it, especially being over here and then having a full-time staff over there.
Right. Yeah.
That sounds like a
It,
lot of logistics, but that sounds like you're
it,
expanding and doing amazing.
yeah, yeah, and trial and error and things, like, I wasn't a very good owner of that for several years, didn't have accountability in place and things like that. Now we have it all dialed in. And the reason it is because I'm very distrustful. So I wanted to help, but I didn't want to just give my money.
Sure.
And I visited a bunch of projects when I was there, and there was a lot of waste going on. And so I'm like, well, I do want to help, but I don't trust these other people. So I'm just going to start my own. I guess I did the same thing in real estate. Like I trust myself. I know, that I'm trustworthy. And so, I guess that's, I never thought about that until just now, that the same path, I guess, for the Imagine Africa and Oregon Life Homes.
Well, it sounds like it's working for you.
Yeah, it's great. Can't complain. I think it's the greatest career in the world.
I do too. I agree. It's my most favorite job that I've ever had. And I started in 2017 and no burnout yet. So
awesome. Yeah. You must have found stuff that you're passionate about in the business, that those are the ones that'll last. Well, also the ones that don't sell anything, they last too, because they don't need the money and they don't have any stress. So we don't want to be one of those on the agents.
No, definitely not. Well, I wanted to thank you for taking some time out of your day to be here on the Oregon Icons of Real Estate podcast. And if anybody would like to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So my cell phone, what you could see if you just, even if you go to the Oregon Life Homes website, is 541-517-1749. I wouldn't charge you anything or anything like that, but I would get free advice just from one colleague to another anytime. Just call, text 541-517-1749. Imagine Africa, if you're ever interested in volunteering over there or anything else, is imagineafrica.org is the name of the website for the nonprofit.
Okay, wonderful. I'm glad we were able to talk about that, because I think it's really important to share that that's a cause that you have, and then also just to inspire other people to kind of choose their own philanthropy project to take part in. Yeah,
that's the other thing. Sometimes you get a lot of complainers, just that type of personality, and I think that some just do that because they're not in a fight that's worthwhile. Like they're not in a meaningful fight, like fighting against poverty or fighting against homelessness or helping animals at the shelter. I think once you're into that, it also takes the stress out of, like on Lab Coats Agents. I don't know if you're on there. Someone was asking how you,
no, I haven't on that one.
It's like a couple 100,000 agents on there on Facebook. It's a great thing, but somebody put a question on there of how do I not be so stressed out about real estate? And my answer was volunteer to help people less fortunate than you. And I think it really does. I literally do not get stressed about real estate, and never, ever at all. And I think
it's a great tip,
because there's so much more important things than whether this deal closes or not if you're involved in it. And it doesn't have to be helping orphans in Africa. It could be anything in your community. But I think if you're working for something bigger than yourself, it shows you how trivial what we're doing over here, to get another commission is in the grand scheme of things. Right. That might be the best advice I could give is get involved to help people less fortunate than you, and things kind of just fall into place.
I agree. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Have a good one. Enjoy. Good luck on your listing appointments.
Thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.